when the stars remembered us. In the quiet town of Elmsworth, nestled between gentle hills and winding rivers, lived a girl named Clara. She worked as a librarian in the town's only library, where dusty bookshelves and the scent of old pages made her feel at home. Clara was quiet, thoughtful, and carried in her heart the weight of a past she seldom spoke about. Every Friday evening, a young man named Thomas would visit the library. He was a teacher at the local school, kind, patient, and always carrying a book of poetry under his arm. For months, they exchanged little more than shy smiles and polite nods. Yet every time Thomas entered the library, Clara's world seemed a little warmer. One rainy Friday, Thomas approached her desk holding a copy of Wuthering Heights. His smile was nervous. "Do you believe," he asked, "that some people are written into our lives like chapters in a book? No matter how long it takes, they always find their way back?" Clara looked up, surprised. Then she smiled, a smile that came from somewhere deep inside her. "I believe," she replied softly, "that some souls remember each other, even when the world forgets." From that day on, Thomas and Clara began talking, first about books, then about life, fears, dreams, and memories. She learned that he had once lived in Elmsworth as a boy but had moved away after his father died. He returned to teach, seeking something he couldn't quite name. Clara, too, had a story. When she was a child, she had a best friend named Tom. They used to lie beneath the stars, whispering wishes into the night sky. One day, he and his family suddenly moved away. She never saw him again. But every year on the same night, she'd return to the same hill and look at the stars, hoping they'd remember the promise they once made, to find each other again. One evening, under the soft glow of the library's lamplight, Clara showed Thomas an old photo hidden in the pages of a childhood diary. It was a boy with warm brown eyes and a crooked smile. She whispered, "This was Tom." Thomas stared at the photo. Slowly, he reached into his wallet and pulled out a tiny, creased piece of paper, a star-shaped note that said, "Wait for me." "I never stopped looking," he said, voice trembling. "I never stopped hoping." Tears welled in Clara's eyes. All those years, the stars had remembered. From then on, their love was quiet and steady, like the turning pages of a well-loved book. They'd sit together in silence, fingers intertwined, reading and dreaming. They returned to their hill each year, not to search, but to remember. Years later, when the townspeople spoke of the library, they always remembered the couple who fell in love among the books, reunited not by chance, but by memory, poetry, and the stars. Echoes of the Heart. In a quiet coastal town named Windmere, where the waves whispered stories to the shore and time seemed to move slower, lived a young woman named Clara. She was a writer, often found sitting in the town's little cafe by the bay, her notebook always open, pages filled with fragments of dreams and the echo of emotions she could never quite explain. Clara had lived in Windmere her whole life, yet she often felt like something, or someone, was missing. Every morning she watched the sea, waiting for something she couldn't name. And one day, it arrived. His name was Elias. A travel photographer from the city, he came to Windmere looking for quiet beauty, hoping to find inspiration in the forgotten corners of the world. With his camera slung around his shoulder and eyes that carried storms and sunsets, Elias walked into Clara's life like a forgotten melody. They met in the cafe, where Clara accidentally spilled coffee on one of his photo prints. Mortified, she tried to apologize, but Elias only laughed. "It's okay," he said, his voice calm like the tide. "Sometimes a little chaos creates the most interesting art." From that moment, something sparked between them. Days turned into weeks, and Clara and Elias became inseparable. They explored the coast together, he capturing the world through his lens, she recording their moments in words. He told her stories of distant places, mountains kissed by clouds and cities that never slept. She told him about the beauty of staying still, about how even the smallest town could hold the grandest of love stories. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned gold, Elias took Clara to the edge of the cliffs overlooking the sea. The wind played with her hair, and his fingers brushed against hers. "I didn't plan to stay here," Elias confessed, "but then I met you. And now? I don't want to leave. Clara's eyes welled up, but she smiled. Then don't. They kissed, and it felt like the world had stopped just for them. But life, as it often does, brought with it a cruel twist. Elias was offered a once-in-a-lifetime assignment to travel the world for a year, documenting disappearing cultures. It was his dream. Clara, heart-aching, encouraged him to go. "I'll wait," she whispered, hugging him tightly at the train station. "Just promise me you'll come back." "I will," Elias promised. "All right. Every week. And one day, when the story is ready to end, I'll return to where it began, with you." For a year, letters flew between them like migrating birds. Stories of deserts and snow-covered villages, markets full of colors, and silent, sacred temples. Clara responded with pages of her own, how she missed him, how she had started turning their love into a novel, how every night she read his words beneath the same sky. Then one day, the letter stopped. No message. No calls. Just silence. Clara waited. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Friends told her to move on, but her heart refused. She still sat at the cafe, notebook open, waiting for the echo of a promise. Almost a year later, on a rainy afternoon, Clara sat alone in the cafe, staring out the window, heart heavy. She had almost given up. Then the bell above the cafe door rang. She turned, and there he was. Elias stood, drenched from the rain, older, a little thinner, but with the same storm-filled eyes. "I'm sorry," he said, voice cracking. "I was in a remote village. Got terribly sick. No way to send letters. But the moment I could move, I came back." Clara stood slowly, tears blurring her vision. She ran into his arms without a word. "I never stopped loving you," he whispered. "I never stopped waiting," she replied. That night, Clara closed her notebook. The story wasn't waiting to be written anymore. It had come home.